first edition of Otaku News. First thing I'm going to start off about is talking about how today is my birthday. The day I'm filming this, not the day that it's published. I'm not going to say my age because that's embarrassing, but it's still a big deal in itself. The next thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is none other than how pirate sites are now getting sort of but surely getting shut down by the anime community in Japan through either lawsuits or cease and desist orders or various other likes. I can't really name very few in there on the top of my head, but it seems like every week or so or every day or so, more and more anime pirate sites are closing down. The next thing about of Otaku News is we just opened up a poll today, the day I'm filming, not the day this is published. Is we're going to vote for the name for our mascot character, our cat girl. There is four selections: Stella, Neko July, Blair, and Rim are the four choices for the name for the cat girl. I would love it if you guys would vote for which one will be the new cat girl's name. Thank you, and here's on with the rest of the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the All American Otaku Show. Today's subject is about magic. We've done a poll at the beginning of the month of the top magic user. It's was a vastly poll. 27 people voted, and from everyone from Howl's Moving Castle to Lena Inverse, there was a clear cut winner and a clear cut one that took last, middle, and so forth. But that's not going to be the only subject we're going to talk about in magic and anime. We're also going to talk about what is the significance of magic in anime. In anime, just like any other medium, the idea of magical and fantastical or even the fantasy elements are very high energetic, highly built, and highly strong with a lot of us. Magic tells gives us more of a surreal world, and the idea that we make us to believe that anything and everything can and will happen in life, as well as in anime or manga. The uh, the first one I'm going to talk to you about is none other than Black Black Clover. Black Clover is an anime with various different wizard types, and a very different magic within this anime. It goes into the idea of one following one's dream, even though how unrealistic is the main character being Asta, who has no magical powers, no magic abilities, and looks down upon there because he's one of the few people in this world who has absolutely no magical powers. But what they don't realize is he eventually gains magical powers of negate, where he will form swords out of his grimoire, magical book, and negate powers or reverse powers or various other magic abilities. Even though his magic is weak to the untrained eye, but with his well trained body, as well trained mind, as well trained attitude, as well as being able to negate magic, makes him a phenomenal force. His baby mate, they're not necessarily brothers, but they were adopted together to the church, has immense magic powers with wind and lightning and energy and things like that, is overly super powerful compared to Asu, who's appeared to have none. Everyone looks upon him as this great magical being. There's rivalries, but they're not like Sasuke and Naruto. They're more rivalries of convenience and rivalries because they really like each other and they really want to strive to make each other better. The next anime I'm going to talk to you about in magic is the concept of magic girls. Magic girls are usually girl characters, sometimes in high school, sometimes younger, sometimes older, who somehow start off with regular plain clothes, but then end up with these magical outfits with bright colored, changing animations. Prime examples: Princess Tutu and Princess and Sailor Moon are prime examples of the magic girl is a very strong concept of anime, and it's the idea of flashing lights and things. It's a lot of girls like Magic Girls, a lot of boys like Magic Girls as well. Magic Girl animation, Magic Girl stories revolve usually around love and fighting some crime. And then you have Magic Girl Asuka, who ends up fighting crimes in herself and fighting these giant beasts and so forth. It's a some of them are very violent, some of them are very whimsical, and then you have Magic Modica, who's part of the Magic Girl Online on Raid. That's about. It seems like a nice peaceful thing until you found out the Magic Girl gets mauled or killed by witches or things, and the cutesy character, who's the villain of this thing, doesn't really care. It just looks at it like, oh my god, they killed this person. It doesn't pull any punches. But the first Magic Girl I will talk to you about on this subject is Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon has the catchy sing, "Winning love by daylight, made by moonlight." She's the girl called Sailor Moon. She has a catchy song like that. Excuse me for my singing. It is such a great anime that it had several spin-offs, Sailor Moon Crystal and so forth, that you have Sailor Moon Mercury, named after various different planets, except for, of course, Serena or Sailor Moon, who's named after the moon itself. She's kind of a ditzy type girl. But she's loyal to her friends and powerful and willing to defend and help people that normally want to help, while the evil character tries to take over her and takes over the power and make her life a living hell. But she still doesn't falter there. She still finds love, and has crushes like it in Tuxedo Mask and various other characters. Sailor Moon is a very must see anime, and I highly recommend it. Now let's move on from Magic Girls into more mainstream magic. There's a mainstream magic anime out there called none other than Kiki's Delivery Service. Even though technically it is a girl, but she doesn't have transformations or any of that stuff. She travels on. She's wondering why her magical powers are losing and why she's getting harder to use magical powers. It's a Studio Ghibli movie. She ends up with a black cat, which at first she could talk to and it will talk to her. Then if the cat becomes more of a cat, starts meowing and everything else, and she loses the ability to talk to it, slowly losing her powers. But then she finds out it's the idea of puberty. She loses her powers for a little bit, but then regains them when she finds love or finds strength in with herself and more believable with herself. Highly recommended anime. It's a really good Studio Ghibli anime. I sincerely hope you guys take the time and watch it. We're going in the future do an episode of Studio Ghibli movies, and that will be one of them we'll touch bases on when we do a tier list of Studio Ghibli. The next aspect, we're going to get into more of a powerful magic users. The first powerful magic user and the one last on the poll I'm going to talk about is Lena Inverse. She's from the anime Slayers. Slayers is an anime in a fantastic world where there's magic is rampant. It's more, there's elves, dwarves, golems, chimeras, and all sorts of things. Dragons are on regular occurrence, bandits with magical powers, crazy spells, crazy explosions, and Yelena Inverse fits right in there with her ability called the Dragon Slave, where she uses Dragon Slave to completely destroy and demolish towns or dragons or various things. And eventually, they have to face a demon called Shabanendo, where they end up have to fighting that demon and teaming up with some sort of enemies, and some characters that die that were for enemies turn friends turn death, and the Shagmernendo's onslaught. This came on to 4 or 5 seasons, and Lena Inverse is the main character there. The whole joke is she's flat chested, she's not that good looking, or what have you. Great anime, great comic anime from the 90s, and it doesn't really reflect the ultra violent stage of the animes. It feels more like a closer to 2000s where there was a lot more fan service. This is a highly great anime, great comedic anime, great magic anime. So I had to mention this. Lean Inverse took, even though it took last in the place, but it's not last in our hearts. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is none other than the anime that took next place in Black Clover's Yuna. Yuna is the opposite of Asta. He has extremely fast magical abilities. He could control wind and control lightning and has fairies and has massive explosions and massive powers in itself. He's one of them. You don't see him much in the first season of Black Clover, but when you do see him, you know it's starting to getting dirt and gritty. He raised off with Asa, who has negate magic, and he's always diligent in study. He was the first that everyone wanted, and he decided to pick the more popular club. The I think I forget the name, but the top of the club and started using his magic and excelled higher and higher, founding dungeons, going in the missions, and started becoming higher and higher in rank within to his certain club that he was part of. The next one that took the poll, and the poll is Freerun. This is an anime where it's the what happens after the party, after they defeated the Demon King, where most of the members become legend, become talk to their as heroes and people who want to become them. And it's like your King Arthur, your Robin Hood, your Ulysses, and various other characters that are so old and so dated that they become wow, that's legendary, that's great, that's more of a fable as of who we are. Frieren ends up wandering there because elves live for thousands and thousands of years. She meets this group and didn't really want to go with the group at first because she didn't want to see everyone that she loved in that group die and come there. She's free of attachments. So she ends up being attached to him. They eventually grow old. They eventually die, and they eventually fade away. She meets her priest person who asked her to train Fern to train this girl with purple hair or purple or blue hair and train her in the ways of magic. Therefore, she learned more of the magic aspects as well as the true selves of find out more of her true self through the magic aspects. And she learns there and meets a guy named Sarn, who's a warrior who was trained by the dwarf that used to be in her party. They end up traveling to find very rare magic and different magic, like the one in season two is the magic to turn apples from red to green, or the ability to scratch your back with the itchy part where you can't reach. They also have little jokes in there. She meets another elf in season one who has every tome and every magic ability that there exists in the world. And the winner of the trials will get to pick one spell from this massive tome. She's very powerful. She fights demons with velocity and sometimes tricking them and destroying them without a second thought or want or anything like that. She does it without any emotion except for pure rage and hatred. There's even a funny scene in season two where she's having a temper tantrum and she's crying for days and days and days, says, I could have a tantrum, and it becomes legendary. Even legendary heroes, Hamill was scared of my tantrums. I'm going to do more of a season two fairly on there of a review, but this is a highly recommend, and it's one of my top 10 anime of all time is Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, and it fits it. It's a beautiful, gorgeous anime, gorgeous magic powers, gorgeous story to tell. Even though it's mostly a slice of life, even though there is action thrown in there, it is still a very gorgeous and must watch anime. This leads on to the last anime on my list I'm going to talk to you about, and last character is Hal from Howl's Moving Castle. My personal favorite Studio Ghibli movie. I know that's going to be controversial because everyone will say Spirited Away or My Neighbor Totoro. Hal is a beautiful story of a man who shows himself who's very vain at first, but shows very kind to the people who go there. Shows the ideas of follies of war, using magic to dispel as well as forgiving people who've wronged you. And the main character, female character, it's the idea of forgiving the witch of the race waste that turned her old, except for when she's sleeping, where she turns young. that goes into the idea of what is beauty and what is love, and that's the idea of Hal ended up falling in love with this girl. And even though she was working with him as a maid and cook and everything else, and sees what he truly looks like, and the beauty and the spell eventually ends. You have characters like Chernaped, who's a scarecrow, who they're who ends up joining in with them. You have Sulfur the Fire. This is a very beautiful, very well done anime. Highly recommended if you like Studio Ghibli and if you like Disney. This is a highly recommended anime. Now here's Mr. Pat on his manga in Magic and Manga. Thank you.
Magic. There's different aspects of magic, and I have a small list of this, so we'll cover each dynamic of magic and manga. The first one, it's more kind of contemporary slash semi-modern, Angus Mega's Bride. The main heroine is Chise, and she is not the typical child. She has spirit sight, but when she's in school, people think she's just imagining things and she's gone psycho. In truth, she sees all types of fairies, and when she is sold into slavery, she's bought by this skull mask guy, Lisworth, and he essentially tells her that she could be apprentice and slash the weirdest part, bride. It's basically on a take that she's slowly coming to grips with, just because she has spirit side, and it doesn't mean that she's too weird. It just means she's really unique. They call her sleigh baggy. It's a kind of a term in that folklore, and I think it was called England, uh, and Fae and stuff, and she slowly comes to grips with magic and their relationship with non-human Lisworth. All right, so on to the next one that's a little more modern but different take on magic. It's called a regular at Magic School, and it's a different take. They have these devices that allow them input data into actual magic, and it's really cool. I like the concept of modern mixed with modern tech with magic, and it sounds like there was a war that happened. Anyways, the two hero and heroine, his name is Tatsuya, and his sister's Miyuki, and they're both brother and sister. And the fact that they're kind of a little bit close kind of skirts the subject of relationship to brother and sister. But I like the concept of this one because, like I said, magic is really different take on modern on this one. This one's kind of more future based. The And so the next one I'm going to do semi isekai. So one I talked about is Tanya the Evil. This one was a reverse isekai because he gets pushed into a train and dies, and then he makes a deal with the so-called god, and he ends up having to be this girl that has some magic ability, and she wants to rank up in the ranks. And this is in the era of which is called the Great War or World War One, but a different take because the modern weapons themselves have magical effects. Some have artillery, some have huge explosions, all sorts of things. And the problem with her is she doesn't. She's agnostic. She doesn't believe in God at all. And so in the whole process of casting her magic, she has to keep pretending to, you know, pray to God because he wants her to try to believe in him, just to playing games with that. The next one is another isekai, and this one I like. It's called ReZero. It's basically guy keeps coming back from death. His name is Subaru Natsuki, and he meets a lot of people later on. Like one of his main heroines, he believes in is Amelia, and she's ironically half elf, but the problem with her race is that she is coincided with this witch that causes huge calamity, and witch of envy, and she looks so much like it that Subaru is actually being reincarnated because she has a huge loves him so dearly that every time he dies he comes back. Only problem is he can't talk to anybody about it because he just will start developing heart issues. So every time he comes back and he wants to say something, he physically can't. And there's saving points per each, story, and eventually he moves on from each one. But it is you think coming back from dead is not a harsh thing. It really is, because it's a huge emotional roller coaster of how many times he dies and how many times he feels it. Another one, these are more fairy tale oriented. Secrets of the Silent Witch. I like this one. This is fairly recent manga that I read. And the main heroine is Monica Everett, and she herself is like, since she's so shy and so silent most of the time, most people have to cast magic, they have to say something. So in order to stop that, she started learning not to say anything for casting magic, and that apparently put her in the top tier magic users. And the whole aspect that she has to go back to school and watch over the prince, but she has to keep her identity secret because people will won't believe her about her powers and stuff, and everyone has high respect about her original persona of being one of the top wizards. Last one, and this is another fantasy one, is Fairy Tale. This is a classic one. I'm just going to go over the main clan members because there's so many people in that name, in that series, that I just can't remember all of them. So we'll go with immediate ones. Natsu is basically a dragon sorcerer, but he's not the traditional sorcerer. He actually fights in a traditional sense using fire kind of magic, but it's basically dragon magic. And then we got Lucy that became a new member, and she has keys that enhance the aspect of her abilities by summoning things, and they will come forth and she's only allowed to summon so much and then per day, and she's unique in that regard. And then we have Urza. She's quintessential, another swordswoman style, but I like her because she's a port. She pulls magic weapons or armor and switches them in and out. She's actually really more martial arts, and a lot of her weapons that she has does magic effects. And last of their group is Gray. He's totally unique. He's like an ice magic user, and he summons items by, summoning magic, and they come as items of some sort. The weird quirkiness about him is from his former mentor is he likes to strip down pretty down to his shorts or skivvies because he believes in more tune with ice magic. It really works out. I chose all these because they all have different aspects to this manga series. I recommend almost all these. So I only gave you a brief synopsis. So if you're interested in watching this, go right ahead.
Welcome to the show where anime dreams come alive. Let's go! All American Otaku vibe, diving deep into the anime tide. From the screen to the page, we're turning every stage. All American Otaku where worlds collide. From the 90s till now, the passion's been real. Anime and manga, it's how we feel. Conventions and scenes, cooking up dreams. Japanese culture bursting at the seams. From the 90s till now, the passion's been real. Anime and manga, it's how we feel. Conventions and scenes, cooking up dreams. Japanese culture bursting at the seams. All American Otaku feel the vibe, diving deep into the anime tide. From the screen to the page, we're turning every stage. All American Otaku where worlds collide. I'm there and Mr. Pat by my side, exploring every genre, let's take that ride. From action to drama, it's all here. Community strong, let's